Most people think blood sugar is only a problem for diabetics. It is not. Every single person walking around today has blood sugar moving up and down all day long. And the pattern of those movements, how high it spikes, how fast it crashes, how long it stays elevated, is quietly determining your energy levels, your fat storage, your brain function, your mood, and your long-term disease risk. And here's what almost nobody understands. The most powerful thing you can do for your blood sugar is not a specific food or a supplement or a medication. It is simply stopping eating. What happens to your blood sugar when you stop putting food in your body is one of the most elegant and sophisticated biological sequences in human physiology. And understanding it hour by hour changes how you think about hunger, energy, and health entirely. Let us walk through exactly what happens. The baseline. What your blood sugar looks like before you stop. Before we talk about what happens when you stop eating, you need to understand what is happening when you do not stop. In the modern eating pattern, breakfast, mid-morning snack, lunch, afternoon snack, dinner, late-night snack, blood sugar never fully stabilizes. It is a continuous series of spikes and crashes from the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep. Every meal containing carbohydrates raises blood glucose. Your pancreas detects the rise and releases insulin, blood sugar drops. If it drops too fast or too far, cortisol and adrenaline fire to raise it back up. You feel anxious, shaky, irritable, and reach for another snack. The cycle repeats. This is the metabolic roller coaster most people have been riding their entire adult lives, and they have mistaken the crashes for hunger, the cortisol spikes for anxiety, and the constant need to eat for a normal relationship with food. It is not normal. It is metabolic dependency. When you stop eating, your body begins the process of breaking free from it. Hours 0 to 4, the insulin clearance phase. The clock starts the moment your last meal ends. For the first 2 hours, blood glucose is still elevated from that meal. Insulin is actively circulating, driving glucose into your liver, muscle cells, and fat tissue. Your body is in full storage mode. Nothing particularly remarkable is happening yet. You are simply finishing the processing of what you just ate. Around the 2 to 3 hour mark, blood glucose begins returning toward its fasting baseline. Insulin levels start to fall. This is the first meaningful shift. At roughly the 3 to 4 hour mark, most of the glucose from your last meal has been cleared. Blood sugar is approaching what researchers call euglycemia, the stable, normal fasting range of roughly 4 to 5.5 millimoles per liter. This is where most people eat their next meal or snack. They feel a slight dip in energy or a mild hunger signal and interpret it as an emergency. They eat. Insulin spikes again. The roller coaster continues. But if you do not eat here, if you let the process continue, something far more interesting begins. Hours 4 to 8, the glycogen mobilization phase. With insulin now falling toward its baseline, your body makes a critical metabolic decision. The glucose in your blood is running low. The cells still need fuel, but no new food is coming in. So the body turns to its internal storage system. The first stop is glycogen. Glycogen is stored glucose packed tightly into your liver and muscle tissue. Think of it as your body's most accessible fuel reserve. Your liver holds roughly 80 to 100 grams of glycogen. Your muscles hold several hundred grams more. Your liver begins breaking down its glycogen stores and releasing glucose back into the bloodstream in a precisely controlled process called glycogenolysis. Blood sugar does not crash. It does not spike. It holds remarkably stable, typically between 3.9 and 5.5 millimoles per liter, because the liver is releasing glucose in exactly the amounts needed to match what the body is consuming. This is the first revelation for most people who are afraid to skip meals. Their blood sugar does not fall off a cliff when they stop eating. Their body maintains it almost perfectly using stored reserves. Pushing through this window is where the real metabolic adaptation begins. Hours 8 to 12, the transition phase. By hour 8, liver glycogen stores are beginning to deplete meaningfully. The easy cache is running low. This is a critical juncture. The body now has to make a larger shift in its fuel sourcing strategy. Several things happen simultaneously. Insulin has now dropped to its lowest baseline levels. This is the signal hormone-sensitive lipase has been waiting for. This enzyme, sitting on the surface of fat cells, activates when insulin is sufficiently low and begins breaking down stored triglycerides, body fat, into free fatty acids and glycerol. Those free fatty acids enter the bloodstream and begin reaching working tissues as a fuel source. Fat burning has officially begun. The glycerol released from fat cells travels to the liver, where it is converted into glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis, the creation of new glucose from non-carbohydrate sources. Your body is now producing its own fuel internally. Blood sugar remains stable, not because you ate, but because your liver is synthesizing exactly what is needed. The brain starts transitioning away from exclusive reliance on glucose. It is beginning to run on a mixed fuel system. Most people never reach this phase in their daily lives because they eat before it begins. This is the phase their metabolism is missing entirely. Hours 12 to 16, the metabolic switch. At the 12-hour mark, a threshold is crossed. Liver glycogen is now critically low or fully depleted. The body can no longer rely on stored glucose as its primary fuel source. The metabolic switch has to flip completely. Fat oxidation accelerates dramatically. The liver is now converting large quantities of fatty acids into ketones, beta-hydroxybutyrate and acetoacetate, and releasing them into the bloodstream. Ketone levels, which were negligible at hour 0, begin rising measurably. Blood sugar stabilizes at a new, lower but completely healthy baseline, typically between 3.6 and 4.5 millimoles per liter. This lower range is not dangerous. It is optimal. It is the blood sugar level your body was designed to operate at for the majority of the day. The brain, now running increasingly on ketones, begins functioning differently. The fluctuating energy supply driven by glucose spikes and crashes is gone. In its place is a steady, consistent fuel source. This is why people who reach this phase consistently report a specific quality of mental clarity, not a stimulant sharpness, a quiet, clean, sustained focus that does not fade. Insulin at this stage is at its lowest point in the entire 24-hour cycle. And at this insulin level, fat burning is running at full capacity. The vault is fully open. Hours 16 to 24, the repair and optimization phase. Beyond 16 hours without food, the body enters a state that most modern humans never experience. Blood sugar is stable, low, and self-maintained entirely through gluconeogenesis and ketone production. Insulin is at baseline. Growth hormone, which is directly antagonistic to insulin and maximally released when insulin is low, begins pulsing at significantly elevated levels. Growth hormone serves two critical functions in this phase. It preserves muscle tissue by instructing the body to burn fat rather than protein for fuel. And it drives cellular repair processes that only activate in low insulin, low nutrient environments. The most significant of these repair processes is autophagy. Autophagy is your body's internal cellular recycling system. When the cell senses that no new nutrients are arriving, it begins identifying damaged proteins, dysfunctional organelles, and cellular debris, and breaks them down to recycle into new, functional components. Blood sugar during this phase remains remarkably stable. The liver is continuously producing exactly the right amount of glucose to maintain brain function. No meal required. The hunger that people fear during this phase is often surprisingly manageable. Ghrelin, the hunger hormone, actually peaks around hour 13 to 16 and then begins declining. The body, having fully committed to internal fuel sourcing, reduces the urgency of the hunger signal. Many people report that hour 18 feels more comfortable than hour 8. What this means for your metabolic health. The sequence described above is not extreme biology. It is normal human physiology. For the vast majority of human evolutionary history, this sequence ran regularly. Humans did not eat every 3 hours. They ate when food was available, which was not always. The metabolic machinery for running on internal fuel, glycogen, fat, ketones, was not a backup system. It was the primary system. Modern eating patterns had buried that system under constant glucose supply. The machinery still exists, but it is unused, rusty, and out of practice. Every time you allow this sequence to run, every time you push past the glycogen phase and into fat oxidation, you are exercising that machinery. You are rebuilding the metabolic flexibility that chronic grazing has eroded. Blood sugar stability improves with each cycle. Insulin sensitivity recovers. The body relearns how to maintain its own glucose without constant dietary input. This is not starvation. Starvation is the forced deprivation of nutrients over extended periods with no body fat remaining to draw from. What we are describing is the opposite. It is the body accessing its own abundant stored energy with remarkable precision. The bottom line: when you stop eating, your blood sugar does not collapse. It does not spiral into crisis. It stabilizes, it self-regulates, it finds its optimal range and holds it using a system of extraordinary biological sophistication that most people never give their body the chance to demonstrate. The spikes and crashes you experience during normal eating are not inevitable. They are a consequence of never allowing this system to run. Give it the space to operate. Stop eating long enough for insulin to fall, long enough for glycogen to deplete, long enough for fat oxidation to begin and ketones to rise and blood sugar to find its natural, stable floor. Your body already knows how to do this perfectly. It just needs you to get out of the way. If this changed how you think about hunger and blood sugar, hit the like button and subscribe. We go this deep every single week. I will see you in the next one.